Today on XPlay, Inscription makes deck building scary, and indie fan smug levels even scarier. Plus, the developers behind Tiny Tina's Wonderlands tell us how unicorns and giant firearms actually make total sense together. We're gonna eat so many goddamn crumpets, it's game time.
Hello, and welcome to XPlay.
Hypothetical question. If there was a spin-off game based around the most annoying character in Borderlands, would you play it?
You know, I'm having a hard time narrowing down which character you actually mean.
Tiny Tina's Wonderlands combines heavy metal tabletop fantasy and the patented billions of gun settings from Borderlands.
Oh yeah, Adam got the inside track on the insane tricks Tiny Tina's bringing to gamers next year.
So check it out.
Well, this summer, Gearbox announced yet another addition to the Borderlands franchise, but this time it's a follow-up to the Borderlands 2 DLC, Tiny Tina's Dragon's Keep, and it's its own standalone game, Tiny Tina's Wonderland, bringing the Borderlands world into all tabletop RPG glory. Well, here to chat with us about it, because we have now gotten to see a brand new trailer at the Game Awards, is the creative director at Gearbox Studios, Matt Cox. Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So, Matt, what is Tiny Tina's Wonderland about beyond just the Borderlands characters trapped inside of a tabletop RPG?
Well, actually, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is a brand new adventure with brand new characters. So although you will see some cameos from Borderlands' favorite characters, it was very important to us that Tiny Tina's Wonderlands stands on its own. It's a game within a game. It's the Bunkers and Badasses world, but we play in the mind of Tiny Tina in brand new fantasy settings with brand new characters to enjoy.
So will it play very similar to other Borderlands? Obviously, you look at the trailer, you do see, weapons of great curiosity, but also quite a few melee weapons, which have not always been as present inside of the Borderlands universe, but obviously work very well in a fantasy setting. Will that be changing up how the player's engaging with the game?
I think so, a little bit. I think people who have enjoyed our games before are going to feel right at home with how the shooter and the shooter-looter gameplay controls and feels, but we have fantasy additions and spins on everything. Like you said, we've got spell casting in the game, we have melee weapons in the game, and a bunch of different types of loot to collect as well, with rings and amulets and also armor.
So you get the sense from watching this new story trailer that Tiny Tina is sort of lording over this entire experience for the other players, the other characters. How will she be sort of interacting with the game? Just as a game master, or is she more direct? Is she sort of the cause of the events, I guess, in Tiny Tina's Wonderland?
Well, that's the wonderful thing to design for the chaotic mind of Tiny Tina. So she is the bunker master. So this is her campaign. These are her stories. But at any one specific point, she can decide to change some things on the fly, and it affects the world right in front of you. But that's kind of the fun of her unpredictable nature. You never know when it's going to come.
I guess given the fact that there is actually, a tabletop RPG of Bunkers and Badasses, how much are there rules that you had to devise for the logic of this world? But then also, are these just rules that need to get broken constantly because that's so much in the tradition of Borderlands and Tiny Tina herself?
So it was a great design challenge to figure out what things from the tabletop RPG world can mesh into our vision of still a first-person shooter action experience, right? So, we have a character sheet right off the back. So at the very beginning, you can customize how your character looks and sounds. We have 4 different personalities to choose from. Each of those personalities have 2 different voice actors, and you can, slide the pitch slider, so you can actually customize how you sound as your character, as well as hero stats that map to things like strength, intelligence, dexterity, more of those traditional tabletop RPG stats. And so from the very get-go, player expression, which is huge for tabletop RPG campaigns when you're playing with your friends, is something that we definitely wanted to fold into there, as well as the table is what brings your friends together, and we thought the tabletop board should have a role in what we do with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. And so we have a whole third-person overworld that essentially is a living tabletop where you have a third-person representation of the character you've created, and it's this zone, this living tabletop overworld that connects all of our first-person combat experiences.
Yeah, we did get to have a peek at that and the cheesy puff that was blocking the word. I mean, so is that going to also allow you the opportunity to have a wide variety of locations that people can play in without necessarily having to connect all those seams from one area, one geography to another?
Yeah, I think it does give us a little bit of license to travel to very diverse environments, through that connection of the tabletop, right? But again, that's also part of the freedom of being inside the mind of Tiny Tina. It gives us even more freedom than maybe we would have had in like a Borderlands title for our artists and our designers to kind of go crazy with what we create.
Speaking of characters, there's very, very notable voice talent that's associated with the game. Will Arnett, Wanda Sykes, among many others.
So one of the things that's important to us for, creating a tabletop RPG experience is obviously the friends at the table, the voices at the table. And those actors did a tremendous job. Wanda Sykes as Fred, and you had Andy Samberg as Valentine. So they are there as bunkers and badasses, veterans guiding you, the player, through your quote unquote first campaign. All of these great talents just really their charisma shone through and really made these characters great.
Thinking back, Borderlands 2 was a long time ago, and I do remember playing it and kind of like, who is this Tiny Tina character? I believe Mikey Newman back in those days alerted me, there's this character that actually Birch does in the game that's really quite something. And was when you were making that game, did you kind of start to see that you might be creating, for lack of a better word, a legacy character that is going to become so associated and even kind of like one of the high points of the Borderlands franchise?
I mean, I think it was very endearing and heartwarming for Gearbox to see the reaction to Tina's character. She's been obviously a fan favorite, but I think when Assault on Dragon Keep came out, I think we as a studio realized that there's something to this mesh of fantasy and our looter shooter loop that has a ceiling well beyond just a DLC. And so I think that mixed with the reaction to Tina, like the idea of making a full standalone game that has its own unique features, made so much sense for us.
We're so accustomed both to tropes within fantasy RPGs in video games, as well as those that they're precedent, which is tabletop RPGs. Are you able to sort of poke fun at convention? How much are you expecting of the player to already be familiarized with the kind of logic and the strictures of that type of a world and that type of a game?
I think it's going to be accessible no matter how much experience you have, right? So we wanted to make sure that not only the gameplay, but the story and all of the things that you can do in our game is accessible no matter how much experience people have with either tabletop or fantasy entertainment altogether.
And Matt, do you think that we're going to see some more from Tiny Tina's Wonderland between now and its launch on May 25th? Is there more conversation to be had?
I could guarantee you will see a lot more between now and when we release on March 25th, for sure.
I never knew I needed unicorns and automatic weapons so badly.
Tiny Tina's Wonderlands isn't out till next year, but our review of Inscription is out in the next 5 minutes, so stay there while we take a quick break.
Welcome home.
Until then, watch the hit series from the beginning, streaming now on Peacock.
The Ponderosa will be Payne's first fully autonomous vehicle.
The name Ponderosa. Do we like it?
The name isn't important. We've made advancements.
Wasn't there a car that meant something bad in Spanish?
Quite a few of them, actually. There's the Chevy Nova, the Mitsubishi Pajero.
You think these companies would hire at least one guy who spoke Spanish?
Does anyone here speak Spanish?
Jeez, people.
American Auto. Special preview December 13th on NBC.
She moved to New York to follow a dream, and she died very violently.
New York detectives have seen it all, and only we can take you to the scene of the crime. New York Homicide, a new series, premieres Saturday, January 1st, only on Oxygen True Crime.
Welcome back to XPlay. Indie games are great.
Sometimes it can be hard to stack up a 3-hour ball of cuteness against a massive AAA title worked on by hundreds of artists in a way that's remotely logical.
But that's not the case with this next title that is so good and breaks so many boundaries, the big kids on the block better watch out.
Here's our review of Inscription.
Ever so often, there is a game that comes so highly recommended to me by so many people out there that I simply have to stop what I'm playing and give it a shot. I'm sorry, Master Chief. I hate to leave Infinite, or do I? Check out our Halo Infinite review on our YouTube channel, but I promise to return to your strong Spartan arms soon enough. And this month, that game is Inscription, a simple, spooky deck-building roguelike that has taken the indie and PC world by storm since its release in October. So many of you all have told me and the XPlay team to play it. So guess what? Today's your lucky day. We're reviewing Devolver Digital's Inscription. So, just like me, some of you may be sitting in front of your computer and smart devices asking, okay, what is Inscription? Well, it's a horror deck-building roguelike video game developed by Daniel Mullins, the creative mind behind Pony Island and The Hex. So if either of those indie titles rings a familiar bell in your brain, you know you're in for a wild ride. Additionally, the Inscription you can play today wasn't the first iteration of this game. No, in fact, Inscription's origins lie in the Ludum Dare game competition, where it was created in 48 hours and was first known as Sacrifices Must Be Made, which is coincidentally the same phrase said around the office anytime a Sonic game has to be covered. Since 2018, the game has evolved into what it is today, and what a game it is. Inscription keeps a lot of its cards close to its chest, literally and figuratively. So it would be insolent of us to blurt out spoilers that could ruin your experience with the game, especially if you're watching this review to decide if this is a game to play. We'll save our spoiler thoughts for a later section of this review. Alright, so firstly, Inscription's deck-building roguelike gameplay just feels good. Like, you know that feeling when you eat a good meal and all the flavors come together seamlessly? While you can't describe every individual element, the power of them balanced together is what ultimately makes the meal fantastic. That and adding just a dash of MSG, aka love. But that is what Inscription's deck-building gameplay feels like, a harmonizing sum of its parts. Inscription's card gameplay is all about sacrifice and balance. Everything has a cost, whether it be blood, bones, or, well, an eye. Each card has a cost value attack and health. Cost is what you need to have in order to play the card. Attack is how much damage the card can do every turn, and health is how many hits the card can take. Additionally, some cards may come with special abilities, including the chance to attack multiple enemies or dive underwater for protections after it attacks. Once a card reduces another card's health to 0, the card starts to attack the player until another card is played. Each successful player attack results in teeth, which are then added to the scale. The goal is to tip the scale fully in your opponent's direction in order to win the match. And then, the gameplay follows a familiar branching roguelike journey system, similar to that in Slay the Spire. Different stops on the map will provide you with different experiences, i.e. a battle, drawing a random card, sacrificing a card to make another stronger, etc. You'll also meet different characters portrayed via masks by your mysterious opponent, some friendly and offering unique perks like the Woodcarver, while others are the mini-bosses of each map, a kooky old prospector and a terrifying fisherman. You have 2 lies portrayed as lit candles throughout your runs. Once both are snuffed out via losing matches, you receive a death card, a powerful custom card you can build by combining the stats of your random cards from your deck. Then, with the flash of a camera, the game is reset and your journey begins once again. Oftentimes, the repetitiveness of a roguelike, particularly a card-based one, can wear on you over time and ultimately lead you to abandon the game. But thanks to Inscription's narrative and compelling card system, I never once felt the desire to leave. Honestly, it was hard to stop playing. Every successful advancement after a death got my heart racing. Okay, the horror ambience also had my heart racing, especially when I turned around too quickly and saw those eyes just staring at me. Yeah! Even after all my playthroughs, it's still like that unsettling. Chance is the other factor that can make or break a roguelike. These games are not 100% about how good you are at them. With a few great cards, you can get incredibly far in a run. But if luck isn't on your side, then all of your talent can easily be rendered useless. Just like in life, you can have all the skill in the world, but if you're dealt a bad hand, say, hosting a video game review show, well, them's the breaks. But Inscription manages to balance the random difficulty of chance with a variety of buffs and perks via puzzles, exploration, and good old-fashioned discovery. By finding clues and uncovering the various puzzles, you, as the player, have the option to not only unlock key items and characters that propel your game further, but additional cards and items that can make a bad hand somewhat playable. And speaking of puzzles, the game quickly evolves from just a card-based roguelike into a first-person escape room and more. So much more. Inscription is like a reverse Matryoshka. With each discovery of a new aspect of the game, more information is unveiled, and Inscription becomes an expanded experience. There is this overarching sense of the game wanting you to get somewhere constantly, but for why and for what reasons, you'll have to uncover for yourself. Discovering the mysteries and narrative of Inscription is one of the main draws of the game. Nothing is as it seems, from the setting, puzzles, characters, to even the card game itself. And that's all I'll say for now to keep things spoiler-free. Now onto the game's design. It is the marriage of visual and audio aesthetics that are the feather in Inscription's cap. The game utilizes color and mood remarkably. The coarse and crude drawings of each animal in the sacrificial card game, the haunting warm glow of your captor's cabin, the constant eerie flickering from the room beyond your reach. Likewise, Inscription's soundtrack proves gentle and eerie without being overwhelming. The music is simply a box spring to the bed of your experience, elevating without distracting. I also quickly became enamored by the design of your mysterious captor's voice. His dull, trembling tones add another unsettling level of creeping horror throughout your playthrough. Each element, both visual and audio, have clear and direct intention behind them, adding to Inscription's overall experience. Outside of Hades, I'm not the biggest roguelike fan, namely because I like to play a game that ends. That way, I know I can move on to, well, another game. But Inscription has now officially joined the outlier ranks alongside Hades. And since I've played it, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it and 100% understand the hype. It is like a melody stuck in your head that you cannot seem to forget, a lingering taste in your mouth that leaves you craving more. Inscription is a true testament of the sum of its parts, and even as I'm writing this review, I find it hard to find the exact words to truly describe my zeal for this game. Spoilers or not. From gameplay to aesthetics, each is meticulously crafted and serves the game efficiently. It is a compact, well-oiled machine that delivers a fun experience with every run, regardless of whether you win or lose. It is games like Inscription that revitalize my excitement for the world of indie games. Games that brilliantly take a genre, or several, and rediscover how to use them. We've seen so many incredible indie games emerge within the last 10 years that I have no doubt Inscription will pave the way for more titles like it. Which is why we're giving Inscription a 5 out of 5.
Listen, we're just getting started.
Stick around. There's a lot more XPlay after the break.
You know, Gerard, I always feel so lonely when the camera pulls away from us.
It's almost like it's watching us.
Big Brother style. Is this Watch Dogs, the new one?
What a commercial already.
For my triple treat, 3 layers deep, 10 Cinnabon mini rolls to eat, and the pizza plus another pizza. The triple treat box, only from Pizza Hut.
At SteelSeries, we make the headsets, mice, and keyboards that the world's best gamers win the most with. And we've been doing it since way back. It's up to you how far you go, but whatever you do, go for glory.
What's the recipe for surprising the kids, treating yourself, and ditching dish duty? You're looking at it. Order your Pizza Hut faves like original pan, original stuffed crust, and more at pizzahut.com. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Now I'll turn you over to our new CEO.
Let's sell the crap out of this car.
First fully autonomous vehicle.
Is it safe?
Ish.
American Auto, special preview December 13th on NBC.
Welcome back to XPlay.
We got up at the crack of dawn to bring you fresh, organic gaming content. So enjoy.
You better enjoy it.
I think it goes without saying that indie games are kind of an essential component of the video game ecosystem. And their role now, what their role has been, and where that role might change, I think is always worthy of good, substantive discussion. So with that in mind, we brought on our very own Gerard the Completionist, who is are you part founder or founder of the Indie Land Festival that celebrates indie games?
I am the creator and founder with my friends. We basically do a 48 to 72 hour live stream raising money for dementia research, all for in honor of indie games. You know, we want to give the spotlight to all those creators out there who are working their tails off to make these great games. And yeah, I've played a lot of them, Adam. There's a lot out there.
No, which is why you're sitting here, and why you're also casting a long shadow for our other friend, compatriot Frost, who comes from, well, the exact opposite end of the indie spectrum. And that's why I'm handing things over to you to get this discussion going.
Yeah, I'm going to be really honest. I'm not as versed in the indie scene. I thought it would be fun to sit in the interviewer's chair this time and ask you guys the questions. So first off, right off the bat, what is your favorite indie game?
It has to be Shovel Knight from 2014 to 2019. This is a Yacht Club Games, the guys who made this game. They are very much former developers from the bigger scene over at Way Forward, right? You know, kind of like the top talent over at Way Forward kind of seceded and made their own company with Shovel Knight. And I mean, I could talk for hours on that, and no one wants to hear any more of me.
I've seen a whale dance.
Trapple King? Oh yeah, he's cute.
Adam, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I'm going to pick one that's kind of obvious for a lot of people, but this was the one that really kind of woke me up to the role and the significance that indie games can play, and that is Gone Home. I'm trying to remember the year. I think it was 2013. That it did something that seemed so simple but so complex all at the same time, and it was something that it was impossible to imagine that this could come out from a more established, profit-driven studio. It's like one of those things I had so wanted, but really couldn't articulate until it happened.
It wasn't until recently that indie games started getting the recognition. You know, now we kind of each have our indie game that we recognize as like, oh, this is a piece of art. We put it on the mantle.
I think Indie Game the movie was kind of the first exposure to what we knew of the indie scene, right? You know, you had Ed McMillan with Super Meat Boy. You had, you had Fez. You had Braid with Jonathan Blow. You have these like up and coming video game auteurs who made lots of games on places like Newgrounds and Flash websites that honed their craft. That when they came to the scene, they were kind of like the first, and Castle Crashers, of course, with Newgrounds and whatnot, and Behemoth Games. Like they kind of busted that door down for so many people. And I think we started to realize around that time in the era of the 360, the PS3, and the Nintendo Wii, that developers no longer need to be tied to one of the big AAA studios. They can just be a couple of guys working on their craft. I think for me, the first indie game that I played that I thought was really special was Cave Story, made by one gentleman at the time in the beginning, and it kind of evolved this huge, undertaking and franchise that it now is. But I think it's because, this is for me personally, I don't know, Adam, how you feel. I think it's because you feel someone's viewpoint and perspective when they're making a game. Whether it's one person, a team of 6, a team of 12, a team of 100, you can feel as a cohesive piece that these people are putting their hearts and souls, and they're saying something through gameplay, through their story and narratives, and through their viewpoints. And I think that's what connects with so many more people than the AAA kind of echelon that we're kind of existing in.
Adam?
I think a lot of what Gerard is saying. What I do think may have happened recently is finally certain economic factors have shifted. COVID, I think, played a large part of it, but I think what has always been the strongest challenge for the indie game scene is visibility. And I can speak, from this as someone who, wanted to cover more indie games, but was always getting kind of discouraged to do it for two big reasons. One, it's a crapshoot. When you put the money and effort into putting a video together, if you're going to get those kind of views. And you need to bear in mind that if you do a few of those and no one's watching, there's someone above you that gives you the money that says stop doing that. And so you want to become picky and choosy. Second is being able to just be able to identify which of those games are. And look, a lot of these teams don't have a lot of capital invested. And I see this a lot, not just in games, in a lot of startup ventures. Where there's this attitude that like we need to put all the money into production, don't do any into marketing. And what that ends up happening is you don't have someone on team who's versed with connections and all those things to run PR or to run marketing to help give someone like me the sense that this is a worthy risk to take, even though it might not bring in the numbers. This could turn out to be one of those breakout games. What I do think happened last year and this has been moving up, and I'm going to do a quick shout out to Stephanie over at Tinsley PR, who I think really has done just such a bang up job with her group in getting a lot of these indie games in front of people's eyes and getting that reassurance that there's something here. But like last year with the Fall Guys, one of the ones that she repped with Fall Guys, you start to see these breakout things that become what everybody is talking about. And that I think that's also started to shift and create that kind of hunger that, now the roulette wheel that we're playing, if this is going to be the breakout hit or not, seems to be showing ever more value. I think all three of us could probably talk about this for another hour, an hour that we do not have, because we could spend that playing an indie game. Let's turn this into a glass of lemonade. Anyway, Gerard, thank you so much, not just for the discussion, but obviously for everything you're doing in the indie space, but for us, thank you for the discussion. You despite not playing a ton of indie games, really, you bring a lot to the conversation. Thanks both.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks for watching XPlay.
If you made it all the way to this part of the episode, you must be a true fan, which means you're the perfect demographic for our XPlay merch.
Check out our shop online. There's stuff even I would wear, which is high praise.
We'll see you next time.